Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard. I'll be your host this week, Ali. You can find me on Twitter at FF Dynasty Grill. With me, as always, my amazing co-host Matt, who you can follow on Twitter at MattFF Dynasty. How you doing tonight, Matt?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thanks, Ali. I could be maybe doing a little bit better. Obviously, the New York Giants losing their own, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. I mean, the only saving grace really is Kev's not here to gloat about his Eagles. So I guess that's one silver lining. But yeah, apart from that, really doing really well, thanks. Fantasy's going all right. Little improvement over the first couple of weeks. Yeah, just looking forward to cracking on for week 4.
Yeah, can't wait. And you will notice that our other co-host Kev is not on the show tonight. He's out celebrating. I think he's on a massive bender with the Eagles going 3-0, looking Super Bowl bound. So yeah, Kev will be back on next week's show. So yeah, and with that we've got the London games coming up this week.
Yeah.
The Vikings and the Saints. That'll be a great matchup. Two teams that are desperate for another win. I think it could be a really good game could be a shootout potentially, and yeah, it'd be. And then I think as the following week is the Packers and the Giants coming to London. I can't wait. I think we're both going to that game, aren't we? So
we are, yeah. So
that
could be an interesting show. The show after that one, we might still be recovering. So
we could be. It could be.
I definitely will. If the Giants pull off a win in London, yeah, I might stay down there, to be honest.
It sounds like a good idea to me. So yeah, with that, we did have. We'll talk as 3 minor injuries that were suffered this week. Mac Jones probably being the most serious one, a high ankle sprain. It sounds pretty severe. Don't know how long he's going to be out for yet. And then you've got DeAndre Swift with a shoulder sprain. We heard that it's not too bad. Possibly looking to be back the week after the bye. I think they've got a week 6 bye. So we're talking 3 weeks without DeAndre Swift. And then Dave Montgomery was in both of our DFS lineups by the sound of it. Matt left the game early and yeah, the rest is history. A lower leg injury. We heard that I think he's day to day. I don't think he's going to be a long-term injury. So he could be back in the lineup, or who knows, someone might have taken his starting job. Is there any comments you want to add on them 3? Is it just they're out for a short amount of time? It's not long-term, so you don't have to do anything drastic in Dynasty.
Yeah, I think it's just keeping an eye out, really, and it's seeing how severe these injuries are. Obviously, if you're missing Swift for a few weeks, that's going to be a tough one to get over. Like you mentioned, the David Montgomery one, that's the one that stings. Obviously, I had him in a few DFS lineups. The fact that I don't really rate him as a player either is even more annoying. That I actually decided to put him in a lineup, and yeah, the injury was quite devastating for my DFS scores this week. So yeah, just to keep an eye on him really in terms of Dynasty and see if there's any way you can pivot off him.
Yeah, exactly. And Swift's the big one for me, just because the running back landscape right now is just an absolute dumpster fire. DeAndre Swift is one of the bright spots in fantasy at the minute. Seems to be producing week after week. So hopefully we get him back nice and quickly.
And maybe we can all have a solution maybe later on, a little teaser there that you might be able to help some Swift owners out a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll see. With that, we'll move on to the main part of today's show. We're going to be recapping week 3 of the NFL season. Another crazy week. We're going to be highlighting some players that stood out to us and then discussing a couple of trades to establish their dynasty value. So, Matt, kick things off. You got a quarterback to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to start things off with a quarterback, and I'm going to start with the guy with the luscious locks. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence, and I think it's now safe to say that Trevor Lawrence is head and shoulders above the other 2021 quarterbacks. I've been really impressed with the start that he's made this year. Looking back to last year, there was obviously concerns playing under Urban Meyer, finished the QB 23, just the 12 touchdowns in those 17 games and 17 interceptions. It was a really rough year, a rough rookie year for Trevor Lawrence, a guy that we were all super excited about, possibly being one of the best quarterbacks to come out of college for years. And the fact that it was such a poor rookie season, I think it had a lot of people concerned. Average just 12.5 fantasy points per game. But I'm glad to say that the Urban Meyer curse has now gone. He's moved on, and it looks like Trevor Lawrence is now flourishing under Doug Peterson these first 3 games. He's currently the quarterback 10, 6 touchdowns, so already half of the touchdowns that he got last year, and just that single interception as well, averaging 19.3 fantasy points per game. So all in all, it's looking great. It's great for me, the fact that I was high on Christian Kirk. I was hoping for this, that Trevor Lawrence were going to take that step forward, and the fact that he's now surrounded by some far more ideal weapons than what he had to contend with last year as well. Everything's just heading in the right direction for Trevor Lawrence, and he's looking really good. Just looking at the efficiency stats as well, 69.4 completion rate. So that's obviously great for considering what he did last year. 103.1 QB rating, which is 7th amongst the league as well. So yeah, as I say, just everything starting to finally come together for Trevor Lawrence. We're finally starting to see that that desire, that hope that we really wanted in Trevor Lawrence when he came in as a rookie. As I say, we didn't quite get to see it in that first season, but yeah, things starting to move in the right direction for him, and yeah, really exciting in terms of Dynasty. I actually tried to acquire him today before we started the show on a good friend Paul Pickin in a league that we're together. I thought I might just be able to sneak him off him before we recorded the show, but he's a smart guy, that Paul. So yeah, unable to get him, but definitely somebody I'm looking to acquire in Dynasty right now.
Yeah, certainly, and I've got a few shares of Trevor Lawrence. I did actually trade him away a few weeks ago for Aaron Rodgers, but he's certainly looking the guy that we thought he could be when he came into the league. But I know just how impressive he is, commanding the offense. What a difference a head coach makes. Someone that's been in the NFL, that's been there, done it, won the Super Bowl. Just the Jaguars team as a whole look fantastic right now. They're protecting Trevor Lawrence. He's getting time in the pocket to throw, and Christian Kirk. You can't be happier than what you're seeing from Christian Kirk right now, because he's looking like a proper wide receiver one, being peppered with targets, and they got a good connection. So it's everything we could have asked for. Trevor Lawrence has certainly, for me, moved up into probably top 10 quarterback in Dynasty right now. He really looks like he's starting to command that offense. And if he can carry it on, I think we all thought that Trevor Lawrence is someone that could potentially be an elite quarterback, getting that range where sort of Joe Burrow is. And yeah, hopefully we see the ascent. Certainly refreshing to see the Jags, London's team, doing rather well. Knocking off the Chargers away from home. It was a fantastic win. And I think I even tweeted out he looked more like Justin Herbert than Justin Herbert did on Sunday night. It was all right, not quite fair because he's got fractured ribs, but yeah, he looked fantastic. He looked like the better quarterback of the two. So yeah, with that, I've got some trade scenarios for you, Matt. I've got 3 here. Let's see who you fancy. So the first one would be Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, the struggling Justin Fields, and a 24 first.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned struggling. Obviously, I think if you presented this to me during the preseason, I probably want that upside that we know Justin Fields got with his legs, and then throwing in that first as well. But like you said, given what we've seen these first 3 games, I know it's only 3 games, but that entire offense looks an absolute mess. They're offering no protection for Justin Fields, and I know I've got him in a few leagues at the moment, and I'm really starting to worry about that offense as a whole and what they're doing for Justin Fields, helping him achieve some kind of fancy relevance. It's just not happening with the weapons and the O-line. So I think now, after even just these first 3 games, I'd rather take Trevor Lawrence. I know there's a 24 first in there, but that's still a couple of years away, and I still feel like Trevor Lawrence can maybe even improve on his current value. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Trevor Lawrence on that one, I think.
Yeah, me too. I think Trevor Lawrence is someone that can take a step into that top 6-7 quarterback. I'm not saying that Justin Fields can't, but he is struggling right now. I think I just saw Byron Pringle as well is out for the season, another one of their wide receivers, although not done great to start the season. But again, who has he got to throw to? It's really worrying times in Chicago. So yeah, I think I'll take Trevor Lawrence as well. Yeah. So trade scenario 2, Trevor Lawrence or Matthew Stafford and a 23 second.
Yeah, again, this is another tough one. Obviously, Matthew Stafford, a little up and down to start the year, but we know that when he's on full form, he's rock solid. Just got to look back to last year and what he was able to do last year. It's a tough one. I think if I'm contending, there's probably not much in it, is there really, in terms of Stafford and Trevor Lawrence. So the fact that you're getting that 23 second, I feel like Matthew Stafford's still got a few years left in him yet. So it's just in terms of what I think Trevor Lawrence, if I think he can gain much more value. I think he will go up in value, but can he get above Stafford and that second as well? Do you know what? I think I'll go Stafford in that 23 second, just getting that extra asset that you never know with that stack class. I think seconds are going to be far more valuable than what people are maybe giving them credit for. I know everyone wants the 23 first, but I do think how deep this class is that even the seconds are looking like being great picks. So yeah, I think I'll take the two asset side and take Stafford and the second.
Yeah, I think I agree as well. I think Matt Stafford, I think a lot of people are a bit down on him at the minute. The Rams offense isn't playing up to the level that it did last season. I think it's struggling. I think Allen Robinson's not quite hit the ground running yet. Obviously, OBJ isn't there now. Van Jefferson as well is injured. So I think the Rams offense will come into its own. And with that, I think Matt Stafford was the top 6 quarterback last year in fantasy, and I think he's going to get back up to that sort of level. So to get the 23 second on top is that, yeah, I'll take that side. And then trade scenario 3, got Trevor Lawrence or Kenny Pickett and the 23 first.
Yeah, another really interesting one, because obviously Kenny Pickett, a bit of an unknown at the moment. I know you were quite high on Kenny Pickett, weren't you, Ali, when we're heading into the draft and even after the draft, after the NFL draft, whereas I wasn't super high on him. So I've obviously got my concerns there, but as I say, he's a bit of an unknown at the moment, and there's that 23 first staring me in the face there as well. As I mentioned, we're really excited about his class, and who knows, if that's potentially an early first, then you could even argue that could, on its own, an early first could be worth what Trevor Lawrence is. So, well, I think it is risky. I think I will take again those two assets, getting that 23 first, and then Kenny Pickett as well. As I say, it is a bit of an unknown. I mean, it is a little bit of a risk, but if he returns some solid value, we know that he's got a little bit of rushing upside with him, but maybe a little bit like Trevor Lawrence and what they can do on the ground. But yeah, I think the fact that I can get that 23 first as well, and yeah, secure two assets again, I think I'm going to go for Kenny Pickett in the first, and I feel like I might know what you might say on this one as well.
Yes, it is a full house. It is Kenny Pickett and the 23 first. It is very close. I think what's happening in Pittsburgh, that they're crying out for Kenny Pickett to come in at quarterback. Mitch Trubisky's struggling. And I really do rate the organization as a whole. The Steelers, they know what they're doing with their quarterbacks, with their wide receivers. So if Kenny Pickett was to step in sooner rather than later, then I think he's got all them weapons around him. So yeah, I don't think he can reach an elite level, but Kenny Pickett's going to be a fine quarterback for fantasy with them options. So
yeah, I think that's one of them where if you're a contender, you're probably leaning a little bit more towards Trevor Lawrence and what he's doing this year. But I think if you're rebuilding, I think I'd feel more happy to take that Pickett and that first and getting those two assets, as I say.
Yeah, and with that, we'll move on to our quarterback 2, although he is the quarterback 1 overall, someone that you won't be rebuilding with, because you're a contender if you got him. It's Lamar Jackson. Currently, it's got to be the MVP at the minute for me. He's just playing fantastic. The Ravens the offense is absolutely purring right now. They lost obviously Hollywood Brown, and we were saying, can Rashad Bateman step up, be that wide receiver 1? Well, he's doing fine, and the whole offense is doing absolutely fine right now. And yeah, Lamar Jackson, the first player in history with 3 passing touchdowns and 100 rushing yards in consecutive games, and his 7th game overall with 200 passing yards and 100 rushing yards. So he really is in a cheat code in fantasy. If you've got him and he's playing at this level, then look out if you come up against him week to week. And then even worse, if you see him and a Mark Andrews stat come up against you, you really know you're up against it that week. It really is the 2019 MVP season all over again for me. It's where has he been the last couple of seasons? Well, he's had his injury struggles, but right now his quarterback 1, and it's not really close. Josh Allen is quite a few points behind him after 3 games already. For me, it's quite a funny situation just looking at it. The Ravens really should have tied Lamar Jackson up to a contract before the start of the season by the looks of it. I mean, whatever his asking price was before the season, well, you can add another 25% at least on top of that. Comes back to, I saw a meme on Twitter today where it's Dr. Evil's asking for $1 billion. And it really is that situation where Lamar's he's gonna set the bench, I think, next off season if they do give him that contract, or whether other teams sniff around. I think he's gonna be franchise tagged or whatever it be. But I think think they could have been smarter about it and tied him down, because if he carries on this and becomes the MVP, then yeah, he can ask for pretty much what he wants going forward. The Russian pace right now, I looked into it, it's actually more than what he had in 2019 season. So he's on pace for 1,377 yards. So yeah, it's exciting times if you own Lamar Jackson. I don't own him in many places. I think I've got him in 2 leagues. So it's not as many as I'd like him to be in. But yeah, it's just if you have him, and especially if you've got any sort of stack with Bateman or Andrews right now, it is exciting times. And just looking at next week, it's a juicy matchup with Josh Allen and the Bills. That is going to be a fantastic match. I think both defenses, both secondaries are banged up right now, and they're both conceding points, but they're also scoring very heavily. So it's just one for DFS lineups and one for fantasy. It's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. So yeah, it's exciting times for Lamar owners.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, that ceiling, it's unreal, basically. I know I put a tweet out last week when Jalen Hurts had that huge game on Monday Night Football and said, it's Jalen Hurts, the guy with the highest ceiling in fantasy. And I had a few people say, obviously, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And to be honest, I think it is dead close between all three of them, maybe all for slightly different reasons. I think there's no denying Lamar Jackson. He's the best rushing quarterback in the league, and what that does for you in terms of fantasy, it is unbelievable. It just gives you that ultra safe floor, but then the ceiling as well. I'd argue that Josh Allen, he's maybe got a little bit more in terms of what he can do as a passer, but then on the flip side of that, he's obviously not the rush of Lamar Jackson. And then I feel like Jalen Hurts kind of in the middle of both of them. Obviously got that rushing upside, not to the extent of Lamar, but I'd argue a little bit better than Allen. But then in terms of passing, I'd say he's just a touch better than Lamar Jackson, but not quite there with Josh Allen. So all three obviously amazing quarterbacks, and they've got that common thing, aren't they? It's just that rushing upside and what it can do for you. And then, as I say, the ceiling is then elevated with the passing game. So yeah, Lamar Jackson, the ceiling is incredible. I think now you have to say he's in that tier one with those guys, those top quarterbacks. Your Josh Allen's, your Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert as well. He's got to be right there in that tier one. I know I had him QB4 preseason, but I did actually have him top of that tier 2. And yeah, even 3 games into this year, I feel like I made a mistake there, and he should have been in that tier 1 with those 3 quarterbacks. We all banged on about it, didn't we, during the off season? It's that golden 3, that top 3. You want a top 3 pick. Well, maybe we should have been saying top 4 and putting Lamar Jackson in there. But yeah, with that, I'm gonna throw some trades to you now, Ali. I'm gonna start with an interesting one, just straight up Lamar Jackson or the former GOAT Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, it's even sillier for me because I had Lamar Jackson behind Kyler Murray, who's had his struggles to start the season. But yeah, I have to admit he's in my top tier right now. It's a really difficult one because being in the same tier, I still have Josh Allen above these, but again, for the next 3 places, it's very close. So yeah, it's almost a push, but I'd say, and it sounds crazy, if I was contending right now, I want Lamar Jackson, who's just on an absolute tear.
Yeah.
If I'm rebuilding, I probably want Patrick Mahomes because his longevity, you don't know how much a Russian quarterback takes out of them, how many years they've got to produce like that. Whereas Patrick Mahomes, you know, he's going to be about, without major injury, he's going to be about for at least the next 10 years and beyond. And he's going to be fantastic for fantasy. So if I was rebuilding, I'd probably go Patrick Mahomes. He's obviously not got Tyreek Hill this season, so his scores are a little bit down. He's spreading the ball about a bit more. If Sky Moore stepped up and turned into someone like a Tyreek Hill and established wide receiver 1, then yeah, his ceiling's higher. So I'll just take Lamar right now.
Yeah, I know that was a pretty tough one for you there, Ali, to start. I think I agree.
It's very tough.
Yeah, I think, like we said, with that rushing upside this year, especially with how he started the year and given what he could do on the ground, I think I'm with you. I would take Lamar Jackson over Patrick Mahomes. So now I'm going to throw a little bit more. I don't know, maybe one that you can find a little bit easy to assess. So Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow and a 23 first.
Well, you say it's going to be easy, but I've historically not been the biggest Joe Burrow fan. Again, it probably comes down to what situation I'm in fantasy. It's very difficult. If I knew Lamar Jackson was going to be this version of Lamar Jackson for the next 5 years, then you got to take him. But if you're going to get the Lamar Jackson you've got in the last 2 seasons, then you'll take the Burrow side plus the 23 first. So I'll just take the Lamar side right now. But I would feel pretty, if I was giving up Joe Burrow in the first to get Lamar, it'd feel pretty good to know that I've got Lamar, but right now, but then, yeah, it still wouldn't feel great giving up so much to get him.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It was another tough one, to be honest. I said it might be easier, but no, I think I agree. Again, a lot of this with Lamar, it's tough. Obviously, we know he's one of the elite quarterbacks. It's hard to think of too many trade situations where it's not dependent on your situation in fantasy, because Lamar Jackson, as I say, is just absolutely tearing it up to start this year. So my final trade, and this one could be interesting now, it's Lamar Jackson and a 23 second, or Josh Allen and a 24 second.
Yeah, again, there's been some great trade scenarios where I really had to think about these, and I think I'll lean the other side. I'll go Josh Allen.
Okay.
Not massive difference between a 24 second and a 23 second. We know there could be some great players fall out of the first round this next year. But yeah, Josh Allen's still my number one. Not seen anything to say that he's going to fall off. He's got fantastic chemistry with Diggs, and yeah, I'll just take Josh Allen. But again, there's not much in it.
Okay, I think I'm going to actually go against you. I think I'm going to.
Oh wow!
I'm going to take. I think I'm going to take Lamar Jackson in that 23 second. I just think with that upside, like I've said, I think that the upside and the ceiling for both of these guys it's unreal, and I think it's just one of those. It's all dependent on the matchup, which is going to have the bigger week. But I think overall, in terms of ceiling, I think they're pretty much neck and neck. So I think the fact that I can get that earlier second, get that into an actual asset, and then maybe potentially could move that on for even more than that 24 seconds. So I think that's the way that I'd look at it, and maybe favor just getting that earlier pick and getting that quicker return on investment. But yeah, I have to agree that there's not a great deal. That let's just say we love all these top quarterbacks, especially the top 4 or 5 currently in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And we'll move on from the top guy right now to the king. Matt, over to you.
Absolutely, yeah. The king has returned. It's obviously Derrick Henry. Quite fit in the UK. We've got his first king in 70 years, and with that, the king decides to return for fantasy as well. And Derrick Henry comes in this past week, 20 rushing attempts, 85 yards, and a touchdown. And then the thing that really struck me, I actually had 6 targets this past week for 5 receptions and 58 yards. And that actually tied a career high in terms of targets, those 6 targets. Now, I will admit, I saw it come up on Red Zone when he caught a couple of these passes. Didn't exactly look the most natural in terms of his pass catching ability. I think it was the first one. It was a screen. He kind of bobbled it on his shoulder for maybe a second or two, but managed to secure it. And then, with Derrick Henry, once he picks up that steam and starts motoring, it takes a brave man to try and bring him down. So maybe it makes sense that they start getting him some of those screens, just get him in a bit of space, build up that bit of momentum, and then we know his absolute wrecking ball in when he picks up that momentum. So yeah, really interesting to see him being used in the receiving game as well, with obviously Tennessee. They've not got exactly an assortment of talented pass catchers. Obviously Treylon Burks, he's still a rookie, has showed signs, and we're all waiting for that breakout week, but currently we've yet to quite see it. But I do think that breakout week's going to come. And then obviously guys like Woods as well, and then just beyond that, it's basically just filling plays that are coming in, showing flashes, but just no real like set in stone wide receiver one there and a clear pass catching weapon. So maybe it's the right way to go and start getting Derrick Henry involved a little bit more. Your top asset on your offense and getting him the ball. Maybe he can provide that safety blanket for Ryan Tannehill, and you can see some more receiving works. And to be honest, he is that workhorse back, even if he's not used greatly in the receiving game. We know he is. He's the guy, and he's the lead guy in this offense. And there's not many workhorse running backs left in the NFL. So at least there's one thing, Derrick Henry is at least going to get those opportunities, and hopefully it does continue. But yeah, it's just a case of how long does the king continue to reign? Again, a little bit fitting to maybe our king, but we know he's coming to that age cliff, and I'm talking about Derrick Henry here. We know he's coming to that age cliff where we start worrying with these running backs getting up there now, 28, coming up 29. So yeah, we've been saying it for years, aren't we, with Derrick Henry? We think he's going to start dropping off. Are we starting to finally see that little chink in the armor? Who knows?
We'll be right 1 year when we say he's going to fall off a cliff.
Well, yeah, when he retires.
Yeah. I feel like him and Tom Brady should retire in the same year, because we've been writing them off for years now. But yeah, just fantastic to see it. I couldn't believe the stat line. them receptions. Where has that been the whole career?
Tell me about it.
Who knew he could do it? And it seems to have taken. I think they played the Raiders this week, and it seemed to have taken them fully by surprise. And yeah, fantastic week. He was RB2 on the week. He was brilliant again. Looking back to his best, and apparently it owes all to there was a bit of snow drop in Tennessee or that state, and he comes out and he in the snow when it gets colder, it's Derrick Henry season and he's unstoppable. So long may the snow continue, and yeah, he was fantastic, back to his best. And the question is just how long can he do it for? I actually pulled off a trade to trade for Derrick Henry today, actually in a league that I'm 3-0. Nice. I traded away quite a few assets, but I got some agent aspects, should I say. I got Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams, but I gave up some younger pieces to get them to go all in, because when you've got Derrick Henry, you've got to be all in. There's no point having Derrick Henry on your roster when you're not going all in this year, because you're going to be trading away for not a lot. But yeah, with that, we'll talk some trade scenarios. So we've got Derrick Henry and a 2023 second, or Aaron Jones.
I mean, you couldn't get two more opposite kind of players, could you? With Derrick Henry, never really see him in the receiving game. I feel like Aaron Jones is a breakout waiting to happen. Obviously, he had that strong start to the season this past week against your Buccaneers. Struggle, but you come to expect that, don't you, when you face the Buccaneers? So. I'm really excited about Aaron Jones this year. We know there's a lack of weapons over in Green Bay. The fact that it can be used in the receiving game, and he still looks like being that 1A in that 1A 1B role with
AJ Dillon.
There we go, AJ Dillon. My mind went blank for a second, but yeah, he's clearly that lead back, I think, in Green Bay. While it is a split, I feel like he's getting the majority of the looks, and I think he's got the highest snap share of the two as well. So. Yeah, I'm gonna, even though there's two assets there, and I've kind of leaned towards the getting two assets, but I'm gonna go with Aaron Jones, because I think this season, he's got that tough matchup out of the way now against the Buccaneers. So yeah, I think he could be in for a special year this year, and they're both getting up there in age. So I'm taking that guy that I think has the upside, and that's Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I like Aaron Jones, the wide receiver one in Green Bay this year. And with that, we'll go to the second one, which is Derrick Henry, or the current running back for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I forgot his name for a minute.
I mean, if you were going to say Christian Kirk then, I mean, we're getting excited. My ears pricked up a little bit. This is an interesting one, but I think, to be honest, I'm quite certain on this. I'm going to stick with Derrick Henry here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, well, yeah, he's looked great this year, but this past week, I just remember seeing it. I actually tweeted about it today. The fact that he had, was it 7 carries or 9 carries? I can't remember the number of carries, but 0 yards. Obviously scored the touchdowns. Had a few receptions as well. Managed to finish as the RB13 on the week. So I think that just goes to show how crazy this running back situation currently is in fantasy. But yeah, that was really interesting. The fact that he had 0 yards on those. I think it was 7 carries. So I think there's still got to be concerns there with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Obviously on a high-powered offense, you feel like he's going to get those opportunities and be schemed in the right way. But I just feel like Derrick Henry, that solid workload, the fact that he's basically the offense in Tennessee again this year, I think I'd rather take that chance on Derrick Henry and that more solid opportunity.
Yeah, I'm fully with you. It's just Clyde Edwards-Helaire has just been incredibly efficient right now. I think he's only had 22 total rushes through 3 games and 15 targets or 15 receptions. So he's just not getting the usage, and I don't think it's sustainable for him to be in the top 5. But we shall see. With that, the third trade scenario is Derrick Henry or your guy Michael Carter and a 23 second.
Wow, absolute pulling on the heartstrings with this last one, Ali. I think this is one of those, isn't it? Like we've talked about, it's more situational. I think if you're contending, you've got to have Derrick Henry. But maybe if you thought you were a contender league going into this season and you've made a hash of it and made a real tough start to the year, and you start to think rebuild, then to be honest, I think I'd go Michael Carter and that 23 second. I know Breece Hall, he's going to be the guy. I've no question about it. He's going to eventually take that lead role, and while Michael Carter he's looked great, and I think just because I'm starting to be out a little bit on Michael Carter, that doesn't mean I don't think he's a great running back. We've seen what he's been able to do when given the opportunity, and is refusing to relinquish that lead role with the Jets. So there's obviously talent there with Michael Carter. So I think if you were rebuilding or you weren't too worried about getting the points this year with Derrick Henry, then I'd rather take a chance on Michael Carter, to be honest. He's still going to be involved, even if Brees Hall takes that lead role, like I think he will. I still believe Michael Carter's going to have a role, and then moving forward, you never know. Change of teams could be a little bit like I don't know, Chase Edmonds this year. Obviously, he's not done too much this year, but you get that opportunity, don't you, to become a lead back somewhere else. And yeah, I think I'd take the longevity of Michael Carter and getting that 23 second as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I would side with the Michael Carter side. Just if you think Derrick Henry, what his worth is right now, and then if you think if the trade scenario came up towards the end of the season, would you even get a 23 second for Derrick Henry with doubts over his future?
Yeah,
possibly not. So to get Michael Carter on top, especially in a PPR league, is I think that's the side that I would go with.
Nice.
And with that, we'll move on to a running back from Chicago Bears that wasn't the running back one coming into the week, but then finished as the running back one on the week out of the whole NFL. Khalil Herbert. Obviously we were both devastated with our DFS lineups to even pick Montgomery and then for him to go down early on. Just took the piss a little bit. But Khalil Herbert came in, and I mean we've been saying on this show the off season that Khalil Herbert should be put more in the mix and given more opportunities, because just from what we saw last season, he was far more explosive in that Chicago Bears offense. He looked like the guy when Montgomery missed games. He looked fantastic. Montgomery then came back and he was made the workhorse again. It was pretty shocking to me and a lot of people in the fantasy community. But yeah, and it is right now. Montgomery was still the workhorse coming into that game. But then when Khalil Herbert took over, he looked very much like the RB1 on a Bears team that's extremely run heavy right now. They're at second in the NFL, averaging 34.7 rushing attempts per game. I think it's pretty obvious that they've got just hardly any passing weapons for Justin Fields. So they figure that the only way to move the ball is to run, and with a Russian quarterback, I guess it's a smart plan. And they were moving the ball really well. Obviously, they got the win over the Houston Texans at the weekend. But can they do it moving forward against better run defense as well? That's when they could come unstuck. But yeah, Herbert looked just really explosive. 20 rushes for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns on the week. He was the overall RB1. Who saw that coming, to the fact that he had combined Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey had less points than Khalil Herbert did. Was just sums up how crazy the NFL fantasy scene is right now. But yeah, he is to me still the number one running back handcuff in the NFL. I think we've seen it every time he comes into the lineup. He looks fantastic, and then just for some reason gets put back in. So just hopefully going forward, he gets more of a look. Be interesting to see whether Montgomery makes it back into the lineup next week, or whether it will be Khalil Herbert. I know I'm excited to put him into my lineups. If it is Herbert going to be the running back one, I'm very happy to put him in and play him in on my flex spot. So yeah, hopefully he gets more of a look.
Yeah, you mentioned that we've spoke about Herbert during this off season. We've actually had a few guests come on and speak quite positive about Herbert, especially in Dynasty, someone to go out and acquire. And even Hannah, our Hannah over at the Fantasy Wildcard Rewind show, she actually picked him as a wildcard selection as well. So that's obviously looking great at the moment. Obviously, we don't want injuries, but the fact that now he's got that opportunity, we saw it last year, like we spoke about. We saw that potential that he's got there when given the opportunity last year, and we kind of saw little signs of it in even week 1 of this year. Had the 9 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown just on a 29% snap share. So we know that the potential's there when he gets the chance. It's just that he's never really been given the chance, which was crazy last year after what he did when Montgomery missed time. The fact when Montgomery came back that he just took up the workhorse role again. It didn't really make sense, but we kind of had those little signs that it could maybe be a little bit more involvement for Herbert this season. And obviously with the injury happening as well, then there could be a potential for even more opportunity for Herbert. And then looking forward as well, we've got to remember that David Montgomery is actually a potential free agent at the end of this year as well. So just looking forward, moving into next year. I think there's every chance that Herbert could actually be the lead running back for the Bears. We know it's a position that that people don't really go out in terms of the NFL draft and look to spend early draft capital, and unless you're the New York Jets and want to ruin Matt's love for running backs. But usually you don't really see those high draft picks for running backs, especially on a team like the Chicago Bears with the issues that they've got in terms of no pass catching weapons. That's something just to bear in mind moving forward. So even if Montgomery does come back and takes over that lead role, I think Herbert's still definitely somebody that you should be looking to go and acquire. And speaking of acquiring, that brings us on nicely to the 3 trade suggestions that I've got for you, Ali. So I'm going to kick things off with, I think I know which way you might go on this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. It's going to be Khalil Herbert or James Cook, the rookie running back for the Bills.
Yeah, apart from James Cook having a really good surname, he doesn't do it for me. I'm gonna take the guy who's on a terrible offense over the guy with decent draft capital on a really good offense. I'm gonna take Herbert just because of what you said. He does have a great shot, I think, now of being at least in with a shout of being the lead guy next year for the Chicago Bears. And if they did, the way that he plays when he does come in and looks every much a running back one, well, I'll be very happy with that. Whereas James Cook, again, there's a lot of uncertainty with the Buffalo Bills running back situation going forward. Obviously, Singletary had the big week this week, but I think they can move on from him next season. Can James Cook come in and be a running back one? Well, I've got my doubts over Cook. I've never been on James Cook, so I'll take Herbert.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, to be honest. But it's funny. I think if you ask the majority of people, they'd probably go with James Cook. Obviously, that rookie that a lot of people were excited by coming into the season when he got that high draft capital. So I imagine if you are looking to make that trade, I wouldn't be surprised if you get a little bit added on top for with her. But obviously, we know that he's just had that big week, so people he's the flavour of the week after putting up that performance. But I do think long term, a lot of people are going to favour James Cook. So maybe if you're looking to make that kind of move, probably get a little bit more than just Herbert for James Cook. So yeah, one to bear in mind. And the second trade I've got for you, Khalil Herbert or Damian Harris.
It's a good one because Damian Harris is such a sneaky fantasy player. He always just doesn't look great at what he does, but he always scores them touchdowns and produces for fantasy. A lot of people, including myself, are on Ramondre Stevenson. They want him to take over. But Harris just isn't going away. But again, I think if I'm shooting for upside, I've got Damian Harris in a couple of leagues, and I just find it so hard to start him. He's in my lineups, and I think, oh God, I really don't have great faith in Harris and the ceiling there. I'll just go with Herbert because we've seen what ceiling he can have if he is given that workload. So I'll just lean Herbert.
Yeah, and at least you know what you're getting with Herbert, don't you? If he's the starter, if Montgomery's not playing, you know he's going to get that solid role. Whereas Damian Harris, you just never know, do you, with Bill Belichick and these New England running backs. Some weeks it's Ramondre Stevenson looking great, and to be honest, I'd rather have Stevenson over Damian Harris anyway. So I'm not a huge fan of Damian Harris, but yeah, you just never really know, do you, with the Patriots and running backs. So yeah, I think I agree with, to be honest. And for this final trade, I'm maybe cheating here. I don't know what the official rules are for us on the wild card and how we should we be putting player to player in terms of these trades. So I'm going to cheat and just get a bit of a heat check really on the value that you've got for Khalil Herbert. So Khalil Herbert or a 24 second round pick.
And I really like it because I think it does get a good gauge of where I find where he is. If you said a 23 second, I'm taking the 23 second, but being an extra year away in a draft class we don't know that much about right now in terms of the depth of it, I'll take Herbert over a 24 second right now, just because of that potential shot at him being the RB1 on that team next year. If it was a 23 second, I'd definitely take the pick. Yeah,
no, fully agree with you. I just wanted to get that kind of bit of a heat check. So obviously we know he's the flavour of the week, as I say, after that huge performance, and just getting a rough idea for the listeners to know maybe where we value him just in terms of picks, if you're looking just to rebuild it or if you're just looking to move off here, but after a strong week. So yeah, I just wanted a gauge rough, and I think I agree with that 24 second. It's a pick out of the way. I think it's probably pretty close between the two. I do favour Herbert, but I'd say that's roughly the value that I currently think that Herbert's around.
Yep, agreed. We're going to move on from a heat check to someone that's heating up nicely. Wide receiver from the Browns, Matt.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely heating up. Amari Cooper we're going to be talking about, and I'll be honest, week one there was alarm bells ringing for me. I know I've got Amari Cooper in a few leagues, and that week one performance, yeah, I thought, oh God, we're in for a rough ride here with Amari Cooper. dealing with Jacoby Brissett. I thought maybe there's a potential buy opportunity, obviously leading up until Watson comes back. I thought maybe there's a chance we can pick up Amari Cooper cheap in Dynasty, because we know we're all getting excited by the fact that when Watson does return, that he can elevate this offense. But then week 2 and week 3 decided, do you know what? I'm just going to take off now. I don't need Deshaun Watson, my quarterback. I'm just going to do it anyway with Jacoby Brissett, averaging 10.5 targets. 8 receptions, 101 yard and a touchdown in week 1 and week 2. 82% snap share. He's clearly the wide receiver one over there with the Browns. We knew that heading into the year, he was really the only option. It was just the concerns with the quarterback, but 92.2 route participation, a 30.7 target share. So as I say, just highlighting the fact that he is basically the lead guy in terms of targets over with the Browns. We know it's a team that doesn't usually throw the ball too much, but when Brissett is throwing the ball, a good majority of that seems to be going Amari Cooper's way. He's currently sitting as the wide receiver 12. I think in PPR, now we've seen it for a couple of weeks. I thought maybe week 2 was that just a one-off, but the fact that he basically put up pretty much the same stats in week 3, I think now we can start getting confident by the fact that Amari Cooper in PPR leagues especially is going to get plenty of targets, plenty of opportunities. And yeah, I think Amari Cooper is doing it a little bit earlier than what I thought. I thought it might take Deshaun Watson coming in to unlock him, but yeah, really impressed me in week 2 and week 3.
Yeah, definitely. Someone that, again, I was worried about after that week 1, worried about before the season. How's he going to fare with Jacoby Brissett as quarterback? Can he sustain any wide receiver as a top, wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2? But yeah, fantastic couple of weeks. It was Donovan Peoples-Jones week 1, and then he's disappeared, and it's all Amari Cooper. And I just think that offense worked really well because you've got Amari Cooper, not an elite wide receiver, but he's close to elite. He's had some massive games in the past, finished as wide receiver 1 before. And obviously their offense runs through the 2 running backs. So it just shows that the defense can't just focus on loading the box up and stopping the run. They have to stop Amari Cooper as well, and they haven't been able to the last couple of games. Brissett has looked really quite confident throwing in the ball. So just how far can Amari Cooper, can he finish as a wide receiver 1? It's I think he could possibly be on the fringe, and then obviously, as you say, Deshaun Watson coming in towards the end of the season or next season as well, it's going to take off, and Amari Cooper could definitely be a wide receiver one going forward. So just a couple of 3 trade scenarios for you, Matt. Got Amari Cooper, or I know someone that you secretly quite like in Michael Thomas.
Yeah, really interesting one. Obviously, Michael Thomas, we've known him being that target hog with the Saints. I just worry that maybe leading, obviously he's had a great start to the season, but Chris Olave is starting to really shine through now, and he had that big week this past week, and maybe Michael Thomas he doesn't have that wow factor in terms of targets. Obviously, we know beforehand you're always going to see plenty of targets. Whereas now I think Amari Cooper, he is that guy, is that clear number 1, whereas Thomas might not be that number 1. And then just looking forward as well a little bit, the fact that he's going to have to Deshaun Watson throwing the ball compared to James Winston for Michael Thomas, while Winston's being serviceable. I know which quarterback I'd rather be throwing the ball to my guy. So yeah, I'm going to take Amari Cooper over Michael Thomas.
Yeah, it's definitely Cooper side for me. I hate Michael Thomas. I hate the Saints, but in terms of fantasy,
bit of bias coming out there.
Yeah, just a little bit. Michael Thomas is someone that I've never hardly ever owned in fantasy, and again, he could be struggling again with that foot injury. So there's question marks over that. And then Chris Olave's come in. We know the targets for their week 1 or 2 and 2, but he put it all together in week 3. Looked fantastic. So it'd be great to see him be the wide receiver 1 there. Second trade scenario: Amari Cooper or Brandon Ayuk.
This one's a lot tougher, to be honest, because Brandon Ayuk, a guy that obviously that I liked as a rookie. Had that bit of a down year last year when he was in the doghouse, but when he got out of that doghouse, looked pretty good again. And this year it's obviously been a bit of a mess with Trey Lance, and when he was getting adjusted to the NFL, and then obviously that injury as well, it's kind of thrown everything up in the air again. But I think in terms of the season, I think I would lean Brandon Ayuk. Obviously, I know it's a bit of, well, they're both run first teams, both run heavy teams, but I just feel like Brandon Ayuk, that younger guy, I think he's got that touch more upside. We've seen it with Jimmy Garoppolo last year that he can put up those big games. So yeah, in terms of getting that younger guy and somebody that I think has upside, I'm going to take Ayuk over Amari Cooper, but it is a pretty close one.
Yeah, it's very close. I'll take the younger guy in Ayuk.
Yeah.
I think he can. He's primed to have some big games going forward. So yeah, the third trade scenario: Amari Cooper or Gabe Davis.
This is a funny one because I don't think any of us really on the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show have been super high on Gabe Davis. I'm still not convinced, Ali. I know he's showing flashes and we know he's on that great offense, but I still have my concerns. I still feel like he's a bit of a boom bust player, and I'd rather just take Amari Cooper, that proven guy. As I say, he's going to be that number one. He's that clear number one now. We know there's targets there for him. He's going to have an upgrade at quarterback when Deshaun Watson comes in. And to be honest, in terms of real life quarterback, I don't think there's a great deal between Deshaun Watson and Josh Allen. So the fact that you're getting that clear number one on the offense compared to a guy that's maybe two, maybe even you could say is number three in terms of where he ranks in pass catches over at the Bills. So yeah, I'm going to take Amari Cooper and just with that target share that he's going to have.
Yep, full house. Yeah, Amari Cooper over Davis. Yeah, agree. We've not really been on the Gabe Davis hype train. Not ready to go on it. When Stephon Diggs is the clear number one and target hog this going off, it's very difficult to get too hyped about anybody else on that team. So yeah, we'll move on to someone that Kev is getting excited about for his real life team, Devonta Smith, the Slim Reaper. A lot of people call him the 2020 Heisman winner. Really kicked it off this week. Fantastic performance. Just went off massively, and it shouldn't be surprising people. He had a slow start to the season, so his target share from weeks 1 to 3 started off with just 14%, climbed to 23% in week 2, and then it skyrocketed to 35% in week 3. He was the focal point of that offense against the Commanders and absolutely torched them. Some big plays in there, and the air yardage share increased as well week to week. So just fantastic showing from Devonta Smith. Had my doubts in week 1. He didn't look himself. It looked like AJ Brown was going to really be the target hog of that team. They've paid him a lot of money. Obviously traded for him in the off season. But yeah, I think Devonta Smith is someone that can capitalize on. A lot of people say that they don't want the wide receiver too, but the fact that the offense as a whole probably will focus big time on AJ Brown and an elite wide receiver. Just give Devonta Smith some extra room. Maybe looks at the number 2 cornerback and can go to work on him. And if he's going to be producing performances like this going forward, then Devonta Smith's ceiling can be really high. And actually, surprisingly, it was the biggest game by a wide receiver from the Eagles, the most receiving yards in a game since 2014, wow. Jeremy Maclin. So 8 years. Just fantastic. And it puts to bed the argument that Jalen Hurts is not a good thrower of the ball. The fact that there's 2 Eagles wide receivers in the top 11 for receiving yards so far this season. Jalen Hurts not just doing it on the ground with his legs. He's not rushing, all of it. He's finding Smith, he's finding Goddard as well, and he's finding AJ Brown. So that Eagles offense is absolutely purring right now. They're top 5 in scoring. They're just exploding. They're blowing teams away, and they've got a pretty good defense to back it up as well. So they're getting plenty of scoring opportunities. And I know our Kev, who's out getting the beers in, he's fairly happy right now.
I'll just say I'm so glad Kev's not on this week. I don't think I could cope with him gloating, but I mean, fair play. I mean, the Eagles, they're absolutely smashing it. I know that you were quite high on the Eagles team as a whole coming into this year. Obviously, Kev was as well. I think we all were, to be honest. But I think that I did have concerns with Devonta Smith coming into this year. I think it was that can Jalen Hurts support these 2 wide receivers when they brought AJ Brown in? Obviously, we were all hoping that he could take that step forward as a passer, but we never really saw too much of it from last year. So it was kind of a bit of a leap of faith coming into this year. And as I say, with the fact that they brought in AJ Brown, I just did have concerns. Could both of these guys thrive in this offense? But just looking at this past week and what happened, 12 targets, 8 receptions, 169 yards, and the touchdowns for Smith. And then, I mean, AJ Brown, it's gone under the radar a little bit, but he had 10 targets, 5 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown on most weeks, that's pretty solid numbers for a wide receiver. So the fact that both of these guys and what Smith was able to do, especially the fact that both of these guys were able to be solid fantasy players, I think it just puts all those doubts to bed. Like you said, the fact of can Hurts throw it and can he support these two guys? The answer is yes, clearly. So yeah, it's hard not to get excited by this Eagles offense as a whole. And Devontae Smith, he's going to be a key part of that. A lot of people were concerned that BMI talk that everyone banged on about when he was a rookie. I thought he might have put that to bed in his rookie season, but he's just taken that next step up this year, even with AJ Brown in town. As you said, the fact that maybe he's taking away that top attention now, it's enabling Smith to thrive. So yeah, it's hard not to be excited by Smith. And as I say, just this Eagles offense as a whole, and I'm just glad that Kevin's not here to gloat as I say that. So we're going to move on to 3 trades for you, Ali, and I feel like I picked some interesting, especially my last one. I'm looking forward to asking you that one. But the first one is Devontae Smith, or a guy that I know you're high on, Diontae Johnson.
Yeah, it's quite a tough one, and Devonta Smith is absolutely tearing it up right now, and Diontae Johnson, who's getting all the targets, is not quite seeing the yardage and the scores right now. But I'll lean Diontae Johnson. I think he is the number one of that team. I think the offense is certainly stuttering right now, but I think it's going to pick it up. It's going to pick it up with Pickett.
I love that.
Whenever that just stumbled across that, and yeah, I'm just going to go the wide receiver one. I really do like Diontae Johnson. I think his ceiling is really high once they get a confident quarterback at throwing in the ball.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm with you. You know, I'm with you. I've been a fan of Diontae Johnson. Even though that the offense is struggling, he's still been targeted plenty. I think he's had double-digit targets in the first 3 weeks. So even in terms of that in PPR, at least you're getting some return, even with this struggling offense. And as you say, if Kenny Pickett is the answer, then that's only going to elevate Diontae Johnson. So yeah, I think him being that number one over there in Pittsburgh, I'm with you and lean Diontae. So the next one, Devontae Smith or Brandon Cooks in a 23-second.
Yeah, this is a really decent one, and Brandon Cooks again is someone that it's been really quite a start to the season. He's doesn't look to me like the Brandon Cooks of old, but he's still producing pretty decent numbers. And at 23-second, we know how valuable them seconds are going to be. I'm just going to lean Devontae Smith just because of the upside, the leap that he's taken into year 2. Brandon Cooks obviously on the decline, so I'll go for Smith.
Yeah, like you said, I think we said that Brandon Cooks is always underrated in Dynasty, but like you said, the week 1 looked great, but week 2 and week 3 is starting to slide away a little bit. That offense as well, still a bit of a mess, and the organization as a whole. So yeah, even though Smith might be the wide receiver 2 in this offense, as we've said at the top, it's still an exciting offense to be a part of. So at the end of this season, you might just be saying that it's just 23-second and Cooks who's fading away for Smith. So yeah, I think I'd take that young stud in Devontae Smith. So yeah, the final one, the one I've been looking forward to asking you, Ali, Devontae Smith in a 23-second, or his fellow wide receiver over at the Eagles, AJ Brown.
I saw this one on the show sheet and I thought, wow, you had to do that, didn't you? But it's a great trade to look at and study. I'd probably go AJ Brown I think he's an elite wide receiver. I had him in a top 5 in Dynasty before the start of the season. Had concerns, obviously, a little bit of concerns with Jalen Hurts, but he's still shown up. But as you mentioned, it's been quiet about AJ Brown this week because of Devonta Smith's performance. But I'll still lean AJ Brown, but that's really close.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think AJ Brown, in terms of talent, if you're comparing him player to player, you've got to AJ Brown. And even just, as I say, looking at this past week, Smith only had 2 more targets than what AJ Brown did. So it's not like he absolutely blew Brown away and was the clear number one. It's still pretty close between the two. So I think in terms of talent, I do still favor towards AJ Brown. So yeah, I think I just about agree with you, but I thought that was quite a fitting one to end on.
I like that one. I did like that one. And we'll move on to another stud that Matt's going to talk about, and we're going to move on to the Wildcard waivers section. So this is the Dynasty waiver guys to target this week, and over to you, Matt.
Yeah, to be honest, Ali, I've tried to go for some tight ends to start with. This one, I've just taken the layup. I've just taken the easy option. I'm sorry to do it to you. I had the first pick this week, and I just thought I'm going safe. I'm going for Mac Hollins, the wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders. And as I say, it was an easy choice this past week. 10 targets, 8 receptions, 158 yards, and a touchdown, just under 30 fantasy points. I mean, if you had him in DFS, I know he was going pretty cheap in DFS. He'll have been on a lot of winning rosters in terms of DFS. We know that Hunter Renfrow was out this past week, but even if you just look back to week 1 and week 2, Hollins was still being used. He actually had 87% and 88% snap share in those first 2 weeks. As I say, he was still seeing the field even with Hunter Renfrow there. And week 2, he had 8 targets, 5 receptions for 66 yards. So the signs were there, but I was actually shocked when I looked at the sleeper ownership, as I say, with that solid week 2. The fact he's still 17% owned on sleeper was an absolute shock to me. The fact that when with Hunter Renfrow being out, it was the number 2 option. With Renfrow back, is arguably the number 3. But this is a team that we know the defense is pretty weak. They tend to be in shootouts most games because that defense is not helping out. And with that, they're averaging 40 plus pass attempts per game. So there's plenty of targets to go around in this offense. We thought Devontae Adams would see the large majority, and while he did week 1, he's kind of faded away a little bit. So yeah, I think there's definitely opportunities there. And Matt Collins is somebody, if he is on your waiver still, and the fact that he's 17% owned, there's a high chance that he is. You've got to go out and grab him as a potential flex play.
Yeah, I've put out a lot of fab on Matt Collins in the leagues that he's not owned. Absolute stud and great hair, absolutely great head of hair on him. We'll move on to my guy, and it's a running back from the Detroit Lions, Craig Reynolds, someone that came in last year for 2.5 games and looked really pretty decent as a running back, producing on the ground. And with the Swift injury, he's likely out till after the bye, so you're looking at two games for Swift to miss. So he's going to fill in admirably as that number 2 behind Jamal Williams, who went off for a big game this week. And just looking at the stats, no other running back saw any work. It was Reynolds was the next man up after Jamal Williams. He had 6 carries and a reception this week against the Vikings. So you know what he can do. He produced some pretty good performances last season. 3 games, he had 48 carries and 224 yards. So he was pretty decent. So he's a safe pair of hands if you've got injuries to your rosters, to your starters. He's someone that you can pick up. I wouldn't spend much money on him because it's going to be sort of a couple of week fill in if you are desperate. So less than 5% of your budget, I would suggest. But someone that is Sleeper says he's got 0% owned rostership, which I can't quite believe that. But he's certainly going to be picked up this week all over the place. So yeah, and with that brings us to the end of tonight's show. So thanks for tuning in, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Wildcard, and subscribe to us on YouTube by searching Fantasy Wildcard Podcast Network, which obviously includes the fantastic brand new Rewind show, which I've listened to. It was out last night and it's fantastic. So please, if you do enjoy the 2 shows, leave us a 5-star podcast review. And then join us every Tuesday for the podcast, and then every Wednesday for the stream of the show. So yeah, thank you once again. Have a good one, and we'll see you again soon.